You are listening to Rewritten Fates, a dark fantasy romance series. Book One. I woke up as the Condemned Duchess. Chapter 6. The Saintess tried to expose her, but this happened. The ballroom had gone completely unnervingly silent. Hundreds of nobles stood like statues, their gazes locked on the Saintess of Light as she stood only a few paces away. Even the orchestra had ceased its melody mid-measure. The musicians waited with bows poised in the air, their eyes wide. Everyone in the room understood the gravity of the moment. The Saintess had made a request, and in this kingdom, her request carried the weight of divine law. No one, not even a duke, refused the Saintess. Lyra's smile remained gentle, patient, and terrifyingly perfect. Duke Viramont, she repeated, her voice a soft caress that reached every corner of the hall. May I borrow the Duchess for a moment? Alaric didn't answer immediately. His hand remained firmly at my waist, a heavy, grounding presence. I couldn't tell if the gesture was possessive, protective, or merely a strategic display of dominance. For what purpose? He asked, his voice a low rumble of warning. Lyra's gaze flickered toward him, her head tilting with an air of wounded innocence. Surely a husband would not object to his wife receiving a sacred blessing, especially one who has strayed so far from the path? A ripple of agreement murmured through the surrounding nobles. Of course. To deny a blessing from the Saintess was to admit to harboring a demon. Alaric's golden eyes shifted to mine. For a brief, suspended heartbeat, we held each other's gaze. A silent, urgent question passed between us. Are you prepared for this? I didn't know if I was. I didn't even know what this was. But I knew that in the theater of the court, the only thing worse than a trap was a public display of cowardice. I would be honored, Saintess, I said, my voice ringing out with a clarity that surprised even me. I felt Alaric's hand tighten just a fraction before he slowly released me. Very well, he said, though his eyes remained dark with suspicion. Lyra's smile brightened, looking almost triumphant. Thank you, Your Grace. She turned and glided toward the center of the ballroom. The crowd parted instantly, scurrying back to form a wide, expectant circle around the polished marble floor. Every noble leaned forward, their faces illuminated by a hungry, predatory excitement. They weren't here for a blessing. They were here for a spectacle. I stepped into the center of the circle, feeling the coldness of the floor even through my thin evening slippers. Lyra faced me across the empty expanse. Her expression was serene, but her eyes were sharp, calculating, the eyes of a predator who had finally cornered its prey. Before the Duchess entered this palace, she began, her voice projecting to the rafters, many troubling rumors followed in her wake. A hiss of whispers moved through the pews of nobles. Lyra raised her hand gently, and a shimmering golden light began to flicker across her fingertips like captured fireflies. Dark magic is a corrosive thing, she continued, her tone mournful. It does not just destroy the victim, it corrupts the very soul of the practitioner. And as Saintess, it is my heavy responsibility to ensure the purity of this court. The air in the ballroom seemed to drop 10 degrees. This wasn't a blessing. It was a public interrogation, an execution rehearsal. Lyra extended her hand toward the floor. Light spilled from her palm like molten gold, and intricate ancient runes began to etch themselves across the marble. They formed a complex ritual circle that pulsed with a rhythmic divine heartbeat. Gasps erupted from the crowd. Even the most uneducated noble recognized this. A Divine Echo Rite. It was a spell designed to resonate with the essence of a soul. If Ilara Valen was the monster they believed her to be, the magic would tear her secrets open for all to see. Lyra looked at me, her blue eyes glowing with reflected gold. "Duchess," she said softly, "please step into the circle." My pulse quickened, a drumbeat of panic in my ears. I glanced toward Alaric. He stood motionless at the edge of the crowd, his arms folded, his golden eyes narrowed as he watched the scene unfold. There was no escape. I stepped forward. The moment my foot crossed the threshold of the runes, the circle ignited. Golden light surged upward like a pillar of flame, wrapping around me in shimmering, weightless chains. Heat spread across my skin, and the mark of the betrayer on my collarbone began to throb with a sudden, violent intensity. The crowd gasped. Lyra's eyes flashed with a dark, satisfied brightness. This was it. This was the proof she wanted. The runes glowed brighter and brighter, the light becoming a blinding solid wall. I felt the magic beginning to dig, searching, probing, sliding through my thoughts, and my blood like invisible burning fingers. It was looking for the darkness. It was looking for the Ilara who had poisoned a saintess. The pain intensified. The mark on my chest burned like a brand. I clenched my fists at my sides, digging my nails into my palms. Don't react. Don't scream. Don't give her the satisfaction. Lyra's voice echoed, sounding as if it were coming from a great distance. The divine echo reveals the truth. No deception can survive the light of the heavens. The light flared to a crescendo. The agony was nearly unbearable. And then, suddenly, something deep within me answered. But it wasn't the answer Lyra expected. A second glow erupted from beneath my skin. It wasn't the warm, suffocating gold of the saintess. It was silver, cold, ancient. It felt like moonlight and mountain ice. The entire ritual circle began to tremble. The golden runes beneath my feet flickered violently, their steady pulse breaking into a frantic, jagged rhythm. Lyra's smile vanished. "What?" she whispered, her composure slipping. The silver light spread across my arms like liquid mercury. The golden chains of the saintess's spell began to crack and dissolve, unable to contain the cold power radiating from my body. Shocked cries broke out across the ballroom. "What is that?" "That's not dark magic. It's too pure." The light surged one final time, wild and sovereign, far older than any magic the saintess possessed. For the first time since I had woken up in this world, Lyra looked truly, deeply afraid. She scrambled back, her robes tangling around her ankles. "That's impossible," she breathed. Alaric moved instantly. He bypassed the nobles and stopped at the very edge of the fracturing circle, his gaze fixed on the silver frost spreading across my skin. "What are you?" he murmured, his voice laced with a newfound wonder. The silver light pulsed one last time, a heartbeat of pure lunar brilliance, and then vanished. The ritual circle shattered into 1,000 fading sparks. The runes died into the marble floor, leaving the ballroom in a stunned, ringing silence. Every eye in the kingdom was on me. They were confused. They were terrified. Lyra stood frozen, her perfect mask finally irrevocably cracked. The spell had revealed the truth, but not the one she had intended. The woman they had condemned as a villainess was gone, and whatever had taken her place was far more powerful than they could imagine. But in the royal court, nothing is ever truly over. Secrets move in the shadows, and every choice rewrites fate. Continue the story in the next episode of Rewritten Fates, and subscribe so you don't miss what happens next.